the 49th president of the Law Society of Kenya is Nelson Havi. He is here with us this morning. And good morning, Wakili.
Good morning, Joe.
How are you doing?
I'm great by local standards.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to embarrass you now because a couple of days ago it was your birthday. And so, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
But so I guess in one way or many ways, the world is better because you're here.
Good to know.
It is. So one does hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We were met with another visit to State House, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. Dennis will give you today's proverb.
So today we're in West Africa, right? And this region has come up with a proverb that speaks a lot about what we say.
Yeah.
A fool has to say something. A wise person has something to say.
Of course, you see, for a wise person, the saying will come out effortlessly because it is within his or her province to disseminate wisdom. But for a fool, it must be propelled to come out because seldom does it exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kizuri chajiuza kibaya chajitembeza.
Kabisa.
Same thing.
All right. The power of chiefs, a constitutional look at their mandate. The president had guests at State House yet again, but this time they're chiefs and their their assistants. And what he basically said was that they were going to revive their positioning. We would like to start from the beginning of all of this and look at the pecking order of administration in the country and see where chiefs and their assistants fall in. And also then taking into consideration that people felt for a long time under the chieftaincy that there was an element of fear. There was an element of a rogue administration. What are the issues that propel people to think in that manner? And now that we see these coming back, could it be for some kind of good?
It is important that we lay out the background.
Yeah.
The promulgation of the Constitution in August 2010 was intended to do away with the then infamous provincial administration, which was hosted within the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya. That intention was deliberate. It was intended to foster a complete devolved government.
Right.
But there is a lacuna. There is no transitional provision that will set out to ensure that administration, which to a large extent was useful in ensuring peace and order, combating crime, at the most basic level of administration. There was litigation in court where the courts determined that the provincial administration no longer has place in the current dispensation. But that said and done, from a practical point of view, the office of assistant chief and chief is very important.
Okay.
This office of chief was created pursuant to the Chiefs Act. There are certain vices that were associated with that office, but there are certain good things that come out of that office because at the basic level of administration, they're able to detect possible offenders. They're able to assist the police in investigations. And even at a civil level, the issuance of national identity cards is a verification process that is always done by the chief. The succession process of an estate is verified by the chief. Although all these things are not founded in any elaborate legislation, that is a role that they have played, notwithstanding the fact that the 2010 Constitution did not envisage a place for this office. Now, coming to what happened, well, I'll wait for you to pose the question, but I think you had initially indicated that is the re-emergency of the chiefs something to worry about?
Okay, so here's the question. It seems as though they were dreaded in terms of an administration. Why?
They were dreaded because they were, so to speak, the coercive tool of the provincial administration then. I remember my chief, Peter Lequiro, was the most dreaded fellow in Likuyani, because he spoke directly to President Daniel Arap Moi. So it was the president there. And often, much as the work of the chief was to ensure that there is peace and order, often they will be used in certain areas that created tension with the society. For instance, they were part and parcel of then the infamous Kano Youth Wing. They could come to collect cows, maize, for purposes of enforcing Harambe project for the construction of a school. So to that extent, they were dreaded. And also in their effort to combat crime, they didn't have a judicious mind. And to a large extent, they exercised draconian powers. So I think the perception of fear is that perhaps they're being indoctrinated again to have the vices that defined the chiefs during the 80s and the early 90s.
So, Wakili, you look at the era that you speak of where chiefs were dreaded, right?
Yes.
And then the Constitution 2010 comes in place that says pretty much just do away with this, but there's that lacuna that does exist. Now, when you look at the president calling in chiefs, 3,000 vehicles will be accorded to them. There will be accorded police officers that you'll be working together with and all that. Should Kenyans be afraid? Are you seeing Kenyans heading back to the point that you're referring to where chiefs were dreaded? And one would ask the question, 2010, 2025, why now?
There is credible merit in the fear that this regime, just like the Ugandan regime, the Tanzanian regime, is determined to force its continued stay on the people of Kenya come 2027. And it's not novel. In 2017, it is the chiefs that were used at the basic level to pursue what was then seen by us, affiliated to Raila Amolo Odinga, as theft of the election.
Okay.
It's done at the local level, because at the local level, they know everybody. They know your political affiliations. They know who will be the agents picked by who and who. They will know the opinion polls. So what better way to influence the outcome of an election than to use those at the basic level, at the ward? And I think that fear is genuine. And what should Kenyans do? Kenyans should just do what we always do. We have structurally the best judiciary. We may have some rotten elements within the judiciary who are always being protected by Martha Koome. But I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, there is no arm of government in the name of the judiciary better than what we have in Kenya. Let them go to court and challenge this formation. It ought to be challenged. It's high time that those in office realize that they serve at the mercy of the people. The people are also the sovereign.
Okay.
Yeah, you cannot plan to rig an election in the manner in which it is perceived is being done.
So are Kenyans therefore right to equate these to the 2027 politics? Correct me if I'm wrong. In the sense that if in 2027 we remember that chiefs were pretty much used, the chiefs are in the grassroots level. One would say they have the local intelligence and they would know who belongs where. Is this then a plan, or one would read this as a plan towards achieving the same as we approach 2027?
In the same matrix, it was used by Daniel Arap Moi. It wasn't used by Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki stole the election at Bomas. That's clear. It was used by Uhuru Kenyatta for his second election. And, history informs the current and the future. So those who are in the process of competing with Dr. William Samoei Ruto need to know that this is the problem that we're going to face.
What do they do now? Because there were 15,000 people who showed up at State House, chiefs and their assistants. They're in uniform, so they didn't just get into it the day before. So they exist, isn't it?
Yes, they do.
They're doing something right now. What is it that they're doing right now? Do we know? Or because it seems that their role is being enhanced, they're being asked to do something else. What do they currently do, and are they fulfilling that position?
Yes, as we said at the beginning, the office of the chief, though not domiciled in an elaborate effectuating legislation, say for the Chiefs Act, which has had several torrents and challenges, it's an important office.
Sure.
The problem is if that office is abused. And you see, from the threshold, the appearance, the attendance of chiefs in State House is not problematic. They represent the crown.
Yeah.
They function under the Ministry of Interior, and before they were directly under the office of the president.
Right.
But there is something wrong when the president says, I will enhance the capacity of your performance towards what end? You understand? I haven't heard that indicated that he may promote some of them upwards.
I could actually read the statement.
There's a number of things that he said he was going to do, so maybe we can look at that and then let us know.
So let's interrogate
So this is what he said. Chiefs and assistant chiefs are enablers of our country's development plan at the grassroots. We are therefore promoting all the trained chiefs and their assistants by a rank effective July 1st, 2026. To enhance accountability and efficiency at the community level, tablets will be issued to all chiefs. More than 3,000 new cards will also be made available to boost their mobility. Further, our more than 106,000 village elders across the country will be recognized and put on a monthly stipend of 3,000 shillings beginning July 1st, 2026. Share the progress of a bottom-up economic transformation agenda with more than 15,000 chiefs and assistant chiefs at State House, Nairobi. We will operationalize 24 new sub-counties, 88 divisions, 318 locations, and 675 sub-locations, and build 900 police stations to advance security in every part of Kenya.
Okay. A plain reading of that statement indicates there's nothing wrong. But it's only a fool who relies on a plain reading of any statement that comes from the executive. So far, the president has cushioned his statement in a very elaborate manner to indicate that there's nothing amiss. But there's something amiss. Why the mobilization at this particular point in time? Why not much earlier? And the thing that is amiss in my projection, I'm not a prophet, is exactly what I've told you. To mobilize from the ward level so that at the polling station, they're able to manipulate the electoral process. What we saw in Mbere, what we saw in Malava in particular, is a precursor to what they may want to do. Because you see, ordinarily in a by-election, if the state is determined to influence that outcome, it can do it effortlessly because all the efforts will be deployed there. But in a general election, everybody is to him or herself. If you are vying at the ward, you will be by yourself. If you're vying in the constituency level, you'll be by yourself. So they will not be able to send Kindiki to Berera because Kindiki will be struggling to support the president in the event he'll be picked as running mate. They'll not be able to deploy these other characters to Malava. So the only effective way of ensuring that they have control is to start from the grassroots. And 2 years is sufficient time towards that preparation.
It's a worrying thing that would want to be planted as a seed of in our minds to imagine that this force of men and women then could essentially be used for purely government propaganda, number one, because he was very clear also about one of the things that he said, that these two, the chief and the assistant, would also be used to counter mis and disinformation about what government is doing, about projects, about development projects, about whatever the case may be. So essentially, they would write the perspective that could be wrong in the minds of Kenyans. Can you do that with a public office, which this is?
They do it. The question is whether you can do it. They do it. For instance, if you go to a funeral in Matungu on Saturday, ordinarily there will be a slot allocated to the administration. They call it Serekali. And there will be a headman, it's called Mukasa or Likuru, who will come and speak. If there is elevation beyond those two, there will be assistant chief or chief, and they will come and they will say, serikali imesema hivi, mipango ya elimu itaenda namna hii, mipango ya SHA itakuwa hivi, affordable housing itakuwa hivi, usalama tumeweka hivi, watu watajisajili kura pale, na lazima muheshimu serikali. That's the narrative. And the ordinary folk will always heshimu serikali. They will toe the line. If the chief comes to a village and says, mnajua watu wa upinzani hawana maono bora kuhusu maendeleo ya serikali, nyinyi yapaswa muone maendeleo ambayo serikali imeleta, wamempatia viongozi, wamemchagulia hawa, wamemteulia hawa. It's propaganda, and it's quite effective. But Kenyans should not prevail in a state of helplessness in the advent of these overtures by the Kenya Kwanza administration. Even within Africa, there have been incumbents who have been removed from office. So it just requires determined effort to mobilize, to sell the agenda, to be vigilant, to ensure that these intrigues do not succeed. You follow? And as I've told you, at a by-election level, it's easy to deploy this machination. At a general election level, you can subdue the schemes. So, yes, there is cause for alarm. We need to fear, but fear propels you to do two things: either to take flight or fight. For those who want the right thing, then you have to fight.
Okay. These 15,000 chiefs and their assistant chiefs have also been promised vehicles. They've been promised tablets, even if you want to go give or take a tablet at the lower end of 5,000 shillings per tablet. So I'm going towards a budget responsibility here. Now, I need you to explain to us, when we hear that a budget, as it is every time the fiscal year is coming to an end, is going to be announced, we know that the budgeting process starts in September, and by the time you come to June is when the new budget is then announced and where it's going to be gotten from. One would assume that anything that would be done in that fiscal year that then requires funding will be put or announced in that budget. Now, for something as big as this, one would imagine that would be in the budget. And if he talks about July 1st, 2026, that should have been in the budget that we are currently in. But I have looked for it and I can't seem to find it. Where do these monies come from? Where will they come from?
Okay. You know, as just talk about that, so we have 106,000 village elders that he's talking about, where each and every single individual will be getting 3,000 shillings. 3,000 shillings per month is 318 million shillings. If you do an annual of that, is 3.8 billion. Do we have that kind of money?
You haven't even added the vehicles.
No, just the elders.
Just the elders.
Yeah. We've not talked about the vehicles. We've not talked about the tablets. We've not talked about enhanced resource, enhanced mobilization, apart from the movement with vehicles. We've not talked about that.
Yeah.
We've not talked about the deployment for this misinformation and disinformation, repelling. We've not talked about all of that. So where does the money come from if having not been budgeted for?
The money is being pilfered. The same monies that were being used for empowerment projects, because there's no budgetary allocation for it. But fundamentally, and this is a failing on the part of the National Assembly, they're supposed to oversight this expenditure. And the moment that a statement of this kind is issued, then an able-bodied male and female representative of the people ought to raise it in Parliament and have it interrogated. But we know we have, sorry to say, emasculated, effeminate individuals in the National Assembly who do not have the wherewithal of interrogating this thing, or they are so subdued that they cannot interrogate these things. My plea is this: let a Kenyan go to court and challenge this. Because you see, under Article 10 of the Constitution, every decision made by the government must abide by the Constitution and the law. It must incorporate public participation. It must be taken with accountability and integrity. It must be a transparent decision. It must be a decision arrived at on the basis of the law. And see, the Achilles heel of this administration has always been Article 10 of the Constitution. So let somebody go to court, and I can tell you, without any fear of contradiction, the court will stop this nonsense.
Wakili, we speak about the law, the constitution, the supreme law of the land that Kenyans bequeathed themselves, that addressed itself to such, right? And here we have a government that has its advisors, has the Attorney General as the chief government advisors on matters law. But we see a government that is breaking this law every other time. And one would just sit and say, the law seems as if it's a suggestion, Wakili. The law is for Aseto, is for Havi, is for Ndu to follow, but not for the government. Why so much impunity? Is it that anyone sits and thinks that Kenyans are so powerless? And with that, the National Assembly that we have that ought to, rightfully so, go through such matters, interrogate the same, and call out the government, one says is in the pocket. They have surrendered their power to the government. Why?
You know, Jadong, we were part and parcel of the team that formed this government. So we know this government from. This government doesn't listen to advice, legal advice for that matter. And even this government itself has designated people who cannot advise it. It has people who it advises to give them legal advice. So to lament that the government doesn't take legal advice is a far-fetched discussion. But as I've said time without number, and I'll continue repeating, it is in their habit to do these things. It should be in our habit to countermand their doing of these bad things. And how do we do it? We can't do it through Parliament because they've captured Parliament. We can only do it through the judicial process. And I still have a very firm conviction that the judiciary, to a large extent, plays a great role in enforcing the Constitution. So, again, please, somebody file a petition quickly. Go to court, you'll get a court order to stop this.
But Okili, abrogation of the law by the highest office on land, what does that translate to Mwananchi? If we are breaking the law as the government, how do we expect Mwananchi to follow the law? Do they ever think of that?
Mwananchi must follow the law. Because the failure of the leader to follow the law is not an excuse for Mwananchi not to follow the law. Because I'm a lawyer. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But the Mwananchi must also use the law to hold the leader accountable. You know, the president takes an oath of office to uphold the Constitution. There is a doubt as to whether that oath has been fulfilled insofar as my friend President William Samoei Ruto is concerned. To him, the Constitution looks like a suggestion, it's a great inconvenience, and I'm not saying this from the emptiness of my head. The fact that courts keep on overturning his decisions day after day is indicative of the truth of this fact. Today, unless the court is drunk, the court will invalidate the appointment of a panel to review cases for purposes of victim compensation. That one I can tell you without any fear of contradiction. Another confirmation that the president looks at the Constitution as an inconvenience. But we will not tire. The people must not tire. For me, I'm not going to court to file these petitions. I've served time. You know, you look at my hair. It is silver like Cicero. You know, in military parlance, I'm excused from carrying a rifle or a pistol. I can walk with my military fatigue assured that as a general, I don't need to participate in war. So let those captains and colonels go to court and challenge these atrocities. I've done my part.
Right. Well, we look at this, it's the chiefs today, it was teachers yesterday, across board different sectors. And so if we can zoom out from this and look at what will be happening on a national scale, it's important for us to do so. That there seems to be a general leaning or alignment towards what will happen in election in the next 1.5 years. And are we disingenuous then for looking at these issues one by one, and that they could point to what could possibly happen in 2027? Are we in the Book of Lamentations for too long, that everything we see has to be something that could have an untoward ending? Or should we, and are we being too careful, too cautious? Are Kenyans getting to the point where they're overcritical of everything and want to point that there could be something, untoward happening by nature of the fact that, a few things are discussed here and there?
Kenya is a body politic, and Kenyans are the most accomplished politicians, comparable only to the Athenians and the Romans of ancient time, because we have the most transformative constitution. Yesterday we had this conference at Safari Park, and I said we may as well have the qualification of a law degree as the entry requirement for every male and female adult Kenyan, because that's Kenya. We are so informed. And the information necessitates that we interrogate these issues, and it's not a false alarm. It's not a false alarm. We are entitled. It's our right. The Constitution has given us the right to interrogate each and everything that the government does. And it doesn't matter even if we proceed from an erroneous premise. It's none of our business. Our work is to question. The work of the government is to work within the Constitution. Often, they'll want to veer off the trail and the track. But the people must maintain their eternal vigilance. So to answer your question, we're not being overcautious. I mean, we're dealing with people who are predisposed to doing wrong. So we should always proceed from the premise that anything they do, even if it is a good thing, it's a wrong thing. And let them prove to us that it's the right thing.
We have something that looks like this, and so it's a bit confusing. That every now and then there are things that pop out of the woodwork, and then you want to ask questions about, okay, what does this mean? The CS in the Ministry of Interior and National Administration had come up a couple of months ago with Jukwa Lausalama. And again, he was engaging individuals around these same administrative sectors. It's a bit of a whiplash situation, because then we're not quite sure what's happening with that, what's happening with this, and there seem to be a lot of avenues for which money is being spent, and for which there is no explanation and or accountability for the same. It puts Kenyans in a bit of a difficult situation, because you're not really sure who's doing what and for what purpose. One would have imagined that what these established in State House on Monday is what the Jukwa Lausalama was supposed to be with, President CS Murkomen, or at least that they could marry in one way or another. Does it speak of, confuse them so that they don't ask too many questions?
Well, the confusion will not succeed. The biggest criminal enterprises, the most elaborate unlawful activities are always formulated within the Ministry of Interior. There is no doubt about it. And so deliberate was the appointment of Kipchumba Murkomen in that ministry that it is no longer in the realm of conjuncture what is intended to be achieved through these nefarious schemes. And as they contrive this confusion, we must always be alert to see to it that we countermand and ensure they don't succeed. Yeah, they don't mean well. That is a fact.
We look at, let's start from the lowest level that they've called the village elders, right? Who one would say then reports to an assistant chief to chief, and then we have the county commissioner. Let's look at the command structure in terms of who these provincial administrators report to and where that falls in the law. I mean, at the end of the day, is that basis enough for that to be challenged in court? Because where is it placed in the Constitution?
It's nowhere in the Constitution, but I can elaborate the pecking order. I mean, it starts with the headman, the assistant chief, the chief, the the coordinator at the sub-county level, the coordinator at the county level, then there is the regional coordinator. Ideally, this mirrors the provincial administration. The headman, the assistant chief, the district officer, the district commissioner, and the provincial commissioner. This was the instrument of coercion during the reign of President Daniel Arap Moi. It is still there. It cannot be otherwise concealed. And remember, at one particular point in time, elections in Kenya were being oversighted by the provincial administration. It was the DO, the DC, and the PC who were the returning officers at those three levels. So make no mistake about it. There's no novelty in anarchy. There's no novelty in anarchy. It's a script that has been used for thousands of years. So when you see it being deployed this time, don't be surprised. Just look into it. But have the realization that it's being deployed without any anchoring in the Constitution. There is no statute that has domiciled this recidivist provincial.
Wakili, you're just speaking in terms of this is the law that you're supposed to operate in.
Yes.
But you choose to completely walk outside that Constitution and assume that it's business as usual. What are we doing?
Because, you see, Kibaki retained the provincial administration. Challenges were made in court. The court has pronounced itself on this matter. Okay. Kenyatta retained it. So William said, okay, fine. The previous kings have had these privileges. Why should I be denied? But they're not due. They're not justified. They're not lawful. And that is why, if somebody is listening, please start drawing the petition. Go to court. Go to court.
Okay. When we look at that and we talk about go to court, and again, because we have this conversation, it leads us to others, and it leads us into a position where the country is at the moment. It's no surprise, like you say, that when you see things happening in the succession in which they do, then you then must start asking questions. The question marks start to ring in your head, because we've just come off of an election where it was very clear that there were many things that should have been followed by the rule of law. They were not. And there seems to be excuse after excuse given as to why that can't happen. There seems to be, I don't even know what the word is, there is no appetite for following the law. Just yesterday, courts have asked that the two police bosses come to court on the 16th of December to explain where Mwenda Mbijiwe is. Explain what happened to him. I can bet you today that by the 16th of December, these two gentlemen are not going to show up in court, as has been the practice. That we say during by-elections, or any election for that matter, that elected members of parliament have no business being in a polling station. But they're all over the place like white on rice. That we say that state officers should not be involved in campaigning, but it happens. That state resources should not be employed for an election or anything that is not part of the office, but it happens. An abrogation of the rule of law time and time and time again. That money should not be spent, not budgeted for. You have 15,000 chiefs who you've told you're going to give them money in less than a year. We don't know where the money is coming from. It's not budgeted for. It's not in plain sight. Nelson, over and over and over again, what you see is that the law is being broken, but it doesn't, even if somebody goes to court, it doesn't quell the appetite for the breakage of this law. That's one of the major problems that we have. How do you counter this? How do you do that?
Self-help is still a recognized mechanism in law, and self-help has been used before. Topple kings, have them beheaded, have them hung, have them shot. It's self-help. It's permissible. So how do we deploy self-help here? You saw the other day, somebody blocked Larry Madowo on the road. That is self-help. Very effective. You get it? The judge of that drama thing is called Bernard Boga or what? Ian.
Yeah, Ian Bogo.
Ian Boga. He also deployed self-help. We can deploy self-help. Go to the chief's home. I tell him, you do not need this car. What is the justification for you having this car? We'll excommunicate you from this village if you continue participating in nefarious activities that offend the Constitution. In the course of campaigns or preparation for the election, stop the motorcade of Oparanya and Mudavadi and ask them, where are you going? Your cabinet secretaries. You have a flag on your SUV. You have a GK plate. Where are you going? You're not going anywhere. Okay? Stop them. Stop them. It's called self-help. It's permissible in law. Let them arrest you. We'll come to court. And our first preliminary issue will be, what was Mudavadi and Oparanya doing in Malava in the course of campaigns, yet they are cabinet secretaries. And there is no magistrate who will be able to countermand what you say. Self-help. You see, we have this constitution as a result of self-help. Kibaki and his people rigged the election, and they told us, go to court. We said, we'll not go to court, because we know you have control of the court. We'll use self-help to invalidate, to discredit your administration. You get it? And I remember then the serving president of the Law Society was my friend Okongo Mugeni. He issued a statement and said, this government is illegitimate. That's self-help. You follow? And deliberate, determined effort by the people is the biggest railguard against overreach by the executive. Self-help.
You know, it has been said even earlier that Kenyans are full of lamentations. That all Kenyans do is cry and not act. You bring in the aspect of Kenyans bequeath themselves, we bequeath ourselves this constitution so that it is what guides us on what we do on a daily basis.
Yes.
It is not a suggestion that this law must be respected. That even when IEBC gives its regulations, which during the campaign period is law and it's being abrogated every other time, Kenyans have an opportunity to stand up and say, cabinet secretaries, you ought not to be here, kindly leave. It is not, we are not begging, we are asking you to leave because the law that we gave ourselves stops you from doing all this. And with that in mind, speaks of Kenyans who should be woke to understanding that we deal with individuals who do not respect this law, but as law-abiding citizens, we will make them respect the law. That lamentation, perhaps, much as is being talked about, responsibility on Kenyans to respect the law and push everybody else to toe the line, right?
Yeah. The book of Lamentations must always be read, so there's no problem. But there's something that I need to emphasize. All revolutions, all calls for change, they are always catalyzed by the middle class. Larry Madowo stood his ground and said, you will not bully me. You will not contravene traffic laws. Ian Bogo stood his ground. They are the middle class moving towards the upper class, because the lower class will cheer in awe that the minister is driving on the side, on the wrong side. They will cheer. Sorry to say, they will cheer. You get it? The lower class will be very excited that Oparanya and Mudavadi have arrived in Kakamega. They will cheer. You get it? So the catalytism must permeate the entire middle class, and to a large extent maybe the upper class, because they are the ones who stand to lose most. You see, Larry stands to lose most when traffic laws are not obeyed, because he's driving. The person on his feet stands to lose nothing when laws are disobeyed. You get it? The middle class, the owners of business, the employed, the income earners, the job creators stand to lose most when the law is violated. These are the people, and you understand. And unfortunately, to a large extent, these people will tell you, Havi, you run an illustrious legal practice. Why do you want to go and dirty yourself in politics? That is stupidity of the highest order. Politics is not a dirty game. In fact, politics is the science of good governance. Good governance can only be undertaken by clean people. So when clean people like myself volunteer to serve, it is incumbent upon the middle class and the upper class to embrace. You understand? They may be in the minority, but often the lower class will listen to the middle class and the upper class. So let us all volunteer to serve in elective positions. That is the only way. You know, I stay in traffic. You get it?
Yes.
Although I know if I was to veer off and a policeman comes and I lower, there's rice, Peter. You understand?
Yeah.
But as my friend Nashon Nyaga always tells me, say, you, Havi, you and I are different because we went to Sunday school. Our mothers and fathers taught us not to pick a coin on your way from the market and buy Patco. You will be beaten to death. So if we cannot steal a coin, how do you expect us to go and steal 1 million shillings? We won't. You get it? And it's those of us with these values and ethos who have to replace these scoundrels that are in elective office. The middle class and the upper class need to see the propriety of good governance. You lose if traffic laws are not being followed. You lose if the tax regime is compromised. You lose if the education system is interfered with. You lose when the health care system interfered with. The people in the lower class don't lose anything because they have nothing to lose. For them, a mattress is sufficient. To them, a slice of bread and soda is sufficient because they live now and now.
Minute to minute.
Yeah, but you need to help them to live here and thereafter.
Yes.
Do you think that there needs to be a certain amount of agitation that needs to occur in order for that thing that we're talking about to be the case? Because there are lulls and then there are highs, that it comes to a point where you look into society and you say, okay, yes, folks are adequately charged to say something needs to be done. And then that, goes, and then it crescendos again.
Yeah.
And then it lulls, and then it crescendos. Must people be kept at a constant state of agitation in order for a change to come about? Revolutions, most of the ones that we see around the world are at the places where people had come to their end and said, we're not going to allow this anymore. Whether it was the Industrial Revolution, when people said, we have to mechanize and we have to move from one place to the next. Whether it was revolutions of government, where people said, we can't do this anymore and chop off Marie Antoinette's head. This is the kind of thing that we say. Do people have to be so frustrated to the point whereby they say, Nana, we may not even wait to an election, as you have often said? Does that have to be the status quo in order for change to come?
We don't need to be in perpetual agitation for a revolution. We just need to ensure that the revolution does not replace Marie Antoinette with her daughter or her son. Because that's what revolutions in Kenya have done. What did we achieve after the 25th June protest? Of course, we got the president to reject the finance bill. But what did the president do? Purported to fire the entire cabinet and replace the cabinet with scoundrels worse than the ones he had fired. You get it? So we dropped the ball. Okay? And in fact, and I've said this on this platform, didn't we cheer? Did we celebrate? Were there no homecomings when William Samuel Ruto appointed the very same person who had called William Samuel Ruto's cabinet as skunks into the cabinet?
Right.
We cheered. There was a homecoming.
Yes.
Yeah, we are the fools. We are the idiots. You see, I've created this premise. There's an average of 22 non-professional organizations in Kenya. Professions with certain standards. We need these people to be in elective and appointive offices. How many cabinet slots do we have? 22.
Yes.
So let them be occupied by professionals. Article 73 of the Constitution says the leadership and integrity. For appointive office, it must be based on competence and suitability. What? Competence and suitability. So if you're not a medical doctor, what is your competence and suitability to serve as cabinet secretary?
For health.
For health. Okay? If you're not an expert in education, you are a damn lawyer like me, making noise every day to earn a living. what is your qualification on account of competence and suitability to serve as Cabinet Secretary of Education? If you are a damn lawyer like me, in fact, a worse lawyer, what is your competence, suitability, to serve as the Cabinet Secretary of Defense? Tell me, which Cabinet Secretary of Defense in the United States is not a general? Tell me. It is there in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But when these stupid appointments are made, we cheer. We have homecoming for these scoundrels. We must say no. Refuse to attend these homecomings. Stop the car and ask Soipan, what is your competence and suitability to be the Cabinet Secretary of Defense? Stop the car and ask Bigo Sogomba, what is your competence and suitability to be the Cabinet Secretary of Education? Stop the car and ask Duale, can you treat a patient? You see, in England, if the king or the queen is sick, the first doctor is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of public health to attend to the king or the queen. Can he go and attend to the king and the queen when they are sick?
Can you go to State House, eh?
I'm enraged. Yeah, I'm really enraged.
Yes.
And I want Kenyans to be enraged because you can never be pivotal in decision making unless the wrong thing sufficiently enrages you to take action.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're angry enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who is the
About
Cabinet
this-
Secretary in
right.
charge of agriculture, sports? Yeah. I remember all the ministers in Moi's administration. I don't remember the Cabinet Secretaries in this administration because they are nobodies. You get it? And we have allowed these nobodies to be in charge of very serious responsibilities of national government.
A lot to be thought of, and this is that we see things in society, but then they're actually synonymous with other things that are happening, and for us to then make the connection is very important. And discourse is important to be engaged in these things. You can't know what to do next if you're not clicked into the conversation. Elson Havi, thank you for being here with us this morning.
Always a pleasure.
Asante
I
sana.
hope I've not enraged the studio.
Or perhaps that's
So
what's
that-
needed.
Perhaps that's what's needed. You're not angry enough.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.